Hello, welcome. Before we get stuck into today's episode, I need to give you, if you're eating, then stop warning, because we are diving into the deep, dark world of cannibalism. I'm sorry, I know it's gross, but this week marks 18 years since the Rotenburg Cannibal was arrested, so put your roast dinner down, put it to the side, and let's get started. Welcome to the anniversary. Shwa-na-na-na, 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 shwa-na-na-na. This case, put very, very mildly, is disgusting. I'm not really a fan of the gory stuff, especially in the content that I consume, so I promise to go as easy as possible, but it was this week, in 2002, in a small town in Rotenburg, Germany, that Armin Miewes was arrested for the murder of Bernd Jürgen Armando Brandes. The trial would make global news, and the details of the crime would be made into books and movies for horror fans to enjoy for years to come. Our tale begins in March of 2001. Armin posted an advertisement on the then active website, the Cannibal Cafe, which was a forum for people who had a cannibalism fetish. People would go on there, they would share their fantasies, they would take part in roleplay, and since this case, this website is now defunct. His advert stated that he was looking for a normally built 18 to 25-year-old to be slaughtered and then consumed. He had fantasies of consuming human flesh and he craved it. Many people responded to the advert, but they backed out when they clocked that he was actually serious about wanting to eat them. It wasn't roleplay, it wasn't fan fiction, it wasn't a simple story that he wanted to take part in, he wanted to eat them. He didn't attempt to force anybody to do anything against their will and just kept the advert up on the cannibalism forum. From this, you would assume that it's a fantasy type thing, a roleplay thing. Many people use these kind of sites to chat about what they're into, and these people were talking about being eaten or eating each other, but they actually weren't up for it in a real life, and that is more than okay. But one person responded seriously. One person had a desire to be eaten as much as Armin wanted to eat. An engineer from Berlin named Bernd. He answered the ad. The pair set a date, March 9th, 2001, and they met at Armin's home. When Bernd got there, he downed a fistful of sleeping pills with a half a bottle of schnapps, which is just the most European thing ever. He then laid down in Armin's bathtub and they put the camcorder on. Yes, everything in this case was recorded. Whew. Armin started by severing Brand's penis. He cooked it for them to share because Brand wanted to taste his own flesh as well. He only got to have a bite of it though, because the blood loss made him too weak to continue. Then Armin left him in the bath. He went to go read some Star Trek books. He went to go watch a movie, and he checked on Brand every 15 minutes, during which time Brand laid bleeding to death in the bath. He continued to drift in and out of consciousness before finally collapsing. Armin killed him by stabbing him in the throat. Now after this, he put the body on a meat hook and got to work. The videotape is 4 hours long. His body was dissected, and over the next 10 months, it was consumed by our good friend Armin. Of course, this is absolutely gross. And of course, the average person probably doesn't want to eat other people. But the most crazy thing about this case, bar the eating of the willy, and bar it being both of their ideas and him wanting to try his own flesh, is that cannibalism isn't illegal in Germany. Cannibalism actually isn't illegal in the UK. When I was at uni, the first case that I ever came across was like from way back in the day, when these people were on a boat, it capsized and they were in the little lifeboat. They ended up eating somebody, they got found, and cannibalism wasn't illegal in the UK. So it was kind of like disturbing the peace of a corpse, mishandling of a body, that sort of stuff. You have to determine how somebody kills somebody, because in order for it to be a crime, it has to be a crime, and cannibalism isn't a crime. Maybe something that's hugely overlooked because it doesn't happen very often, but in Germany, it is not illegal. So he was finally caught in December of 2002. A college student found a new ad that he posted looking for a new victim. Because the thing is, he did it the first time. He did it, he got away with it, he munched on the flesh, kept it in the freezer. And I'm assuming that he was running low on the meat, the human meat. Police were called, they went on a search of his home and they found body parts and the videotape that he had made of him and Brand in his house. He confessed to the murder, confessed to the cannibalism, and even did a few interviews when he was in jail, in custody. I've got some of the footage.
My name, Armin Miewes. I was born 1961. I killed a man, slaughtered him and ate him. Since then, he is always with me.
Because he confessed, he was automatically found convicted of manslaughter. However, he was retried because 8.5 years for manslaughter didn't seem like a big enough punishment for the sort of crime that he committed. When it comes to criminal cases, each and every judgment sets new law, it sets new precedent, and I assume that they definitely wanted to make an example of not eating people, man. It was believed that he would reoffend as well if he was ever to be released from prison, because he had fantasies and those fantasies continued about consuming human flesh. To be fair, I think that's also true because he was looking for another victim, but he was convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison in 2006. While in prison, he ironically has become a vegetarian and, like I said, is super open to giving interviews and explaining his part of the story.
The flesh tastes like pork.
The question that I wanted to ask you guys after giving you the overview of this case is this: when does Brand become a victim in this and step out of being a willing participant? Is it when he lost too much blood to eat his own flesh? Is it when he lay bleeding in the bath? Is it when he gets stabbed to death? It's one of those ones where so many of the crimes that I speak about in this little series are people who did not sign up for anything. People who are walking home, people who are going somewhere, people who are at a bus stop, people who are in their homes, living their best lives completely innocently. If Brand hadn't have responded to the ad, if he hadn't have been up for tasting his own flesh and being eaten, he wouldn't have been killed. This isn't me saying that Armin was right to kill him, but where do we draw it? Where do we draw the line? After he cuts off your willy and then you eat it, did he plan on going home? Was he just going to go home and then not have a willy? How would you explain that to everybody? It's just a question. This one was gross. Thank you for watching, and of course get involved in the comments. All of the research that I did is in the description box. I really want to know your thoughts on this one because it's not super long. It isn't one that took me hours and hours and hours and hours to cram into 10 minutes. It was quite easy to fit in because the actual crime itself is very, very bizarre. But this week does mark the 18th anniversary of the capture of the Rotenburg Cannibal. There you have it.